Hola a todo el mundo y bienvenido a mi canal. Yo me llamo Esteem. Soy una abogada afro-latina licenciada practicando la ley criminal, pero como todos ustedes, a mí me fascina cuando estamos hablando de casos de crímenes reales. En este video vamos a hablar del caso, mejor, vamos a seguir hablando del caso de Mónica Sementilli. Si quieren más videos en español, nada más dime allá abajo. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I'm a licensed and practicing Afro-Latina criminal attorney who, much like the rest of you, has this severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen, the case we're going to discuss today is a case that we've already discussed about 6 weeks ago at this point, but the trial is still ongoing. The first time we discussed this case, the prosecutor stated that she anticipated the trial to last 6 to 8 full weeks, and even at that point, I told you guys that I thought that was overkill. This is the case of Mónica Sementilli. Ordinarily, I'd just insert a clip of what we discussed last time to give you guys a brief overview of where we left off. But because I didn't know how to remain in focus at that point, I can't do that. So let's talk a little bit about what happened last time, some background on what Mónica is alleged to have done, and then let's carry on with where we are at today. Mónica Sementilli, Robert Baker, and Christopher Austin are all alleged to have worked in concert in the murder of Mónica's husband of almost 2 full decades, Fabio Sementilli. Fabio was murdered on January 23rd of 2017. At the time of Fabio's murder, he was doing one of the things that his family and friends say that he loved to do best. Fabio was on his back patio, enjoying a cigar and getting some work done for his company. While he was doing that, 2 masked assailants entered his back patio and mercilessly stabbed Fabio to death. Fabio shared this home with his wife, Mónica Sementilli, and their 2 minor daughters, Isabella and Gessica Sementilli. Prior to Fabio's marriage to Mónica, Fabio was married once more, and that marriage produced an adult son named Luigi Sementilli. Luigi was affectionately named after Fabio's father and Luigi's grandfather. They had the same name. Although Fabio was Canadian, he moved to the United States for his work as a celebrity hairstylist. At the time of his murder, Fabio's son Luigi was still in Canada and in graduate school. Following Fabio's murder, his then 16-year-old daughter Isabella would return home to find her father's dead body and immediately called 911.
I don't want to clean the corner road with the hill. Okay, 0.1818 by 8 by 4 6055. May I come from over there? Okay, after what about? What is the emergency? Okay, now listen, you with your dad now? Why don't you get close to him? How old is your dad? He's almost 50. Okay, now listen, I want you to try to wake him up. Can you wake him up? No, I can't. That's what he's bleeding.
Just shy of 6 full months following Fabio's murder, on June 14th of 2017, Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker were arrested and charged with Fabio's murder. Although Robert and Monica originally waited for their trials to be held, Robert made a decision that would quite frankly turn some heads.
Friday in court, Baker pleaded no contest to the murder charges in exchange for life in prison and admitted to the special circumstance allegation of murder for financial gain, the ultimate betrayal on full display.
The client wishes to plead guilty to all charges and admit all allegations and special circumstances. Is this correct? That is correct.
On July 7th of 2023, almost 6.5 years following Fabio's murder, Robert would enter a no contest plea as it relates to the murder of Fabio Sementilli. We discussed this in the last video, but a no contest plea is in essence telling the court, I'm not admitting any wrongdoing, but I will admit that the prosecution has enough evidence against me that it could appear to a jury of my peers that I did do something wrong. So I'll plead no contest. Following his no contest plea, Robert Baker was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Also following his plea, Robert Baker decided to do an interview with 48 Hours in which he claimed that Monica Sementilli was absolutely innocent and had no involvement in the murder of her husband, famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Sementilli. As I stated, 2 masked assailants went to Fabio's home that day, entered his back patio, and mercilessly stabbed him to death. Christopher Austin was arrested in October of 2023, more than 6 years following Fabio's murder. Unlike his alleged co-conspirators, Christopher Austin did not wait for his trial, nor did he enter a no contest plea. Instead, Christopher Austin negotiated a plea agreement with the prosecution and entered a plea to second-degree murder. The prosecution also stated that they'd recommend a sentence between 16 years to life imprisonment in exchange for Christopher's truthful testimony against Monica Sementilli. This would mean that unlike Robert Baker, Christopher Austin would at least have a chance at a sentence less than his natural-born life in prison. Christopher Austin jumped at this opportunity, and although he hasn't been sentenced yet, he will be sentenced later this year on April 30th of 2025. Last time we discussed this case, we were on day 4 of trial. Now they're upwards of day 30. Multiple media outlets are stating that the prosecution is close to resting in this case. I just ain't seen it yet. In the last video, we discussed Prosecutor Beth Silverman's extraordinarily long opening statement. Miss Silverman delivered an opening statement so long that it spanned almost 2 full days of trial. In her opening statement, Miss Silverman provided some rather risque details of the relationship between Monica Sementilli and Robert Baker. Miss Silverman stated that Monica was a member of her local LA Fitness. At her local LA Fitness, she met with her personal trainer, a man by the name of Matthew Nurse. Although what it seemed from outward appearances, Monica was happily married to Fabio, she wanted to start a love affair with Matthew Nurse. Matthew delivered the most cold and brutal shutdown in the history of cold and brutal shutdowns. He denied her quick, fast, and in a hurry. After that brutal rejection, Monica was feeling absolutely dejected. She felt horrible. And I guess she just decided to reach for some low-hanging fruit. And that's when she met Robert Baker. Robert Baker was the racquetball team league coordinator at that LA Fitness that Monica was a member, and at the same LA Fitness that Matthew Nurse was a personal trainer. Because Monica couldn't start her affair with Matthew Nurse, she took the Consolation prize, and Robert Baker served that purpose. Do you know what Robert Baker did prior to his job at LA Fitness? He was an adult film star. Monica and her group of friends knew that Robert was an adult film star, and they circulated that one adult film amongst each other. If that wasn't salacious enough, Robert Baker was also a registered sex offender. Robert Baker had pled guilty to 6 different counts of sexual assault and sexual abuse charges relating to a victim under the age of 14. Who was this minor victim, do you ask? Robert Baker's stepdaughter from a prior marriage. Throughout testimony, there was discussion that Robert Baker had been married at least 3 or 4 times prior. But that didn't stop Monica. No. She continued with her affair with Robert Baker. Prosecutor Beth Silverman also stated that the pair would engage in swinging together. Monica and Robert Baker were swingers, and they would record themselves oftentimes engaged in sexual acts with other people. Are you wondering why we needed to know all of this to see if Monica was involved in her husband's murder? Yeah, me too. I think it's necessary for them to point out that Robert Baker and Monica Sementilli were engaged in an affair, because that could point towards the motive of the murder. But why do we need to be involved in what they're doing behind closed doors? I think the prosecution could have tightened this case up, taken out all of these unnecessary details, and just gotten to the point. This is justice for Fabio, not a trial on how Salacious and how Monica just didn't meet a man she didn't want to sleep with. That's not the point here. Now that we're all caught up, the 5th day of Monica's trial continued on January 31st of 2025. On this day, prosecutors played Monica's interview with police that occurred the day of Fabio's murder. What prosecutors found rather entertaining was the fact that during this interview, Monica stated she didn't know Robert Baker's last name. She told them that she only knew him as Rob. The 6th day of Monica's trial continued on February 3rd of 2025. On this day, Detective Ryan Verno was cross-examined by Monica's defense attorneys. Also on this day, the prosecution called Monica's former personal trainer, Matt Nurse, the man that Monica really wanted to have an affair with before she settled for Baker, to the stand.
Good morning, Mr. Nurse.
Good morning.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about the year 2017, but before I get there, what do you do for a living now?
I'm an innovation engineer at Nike.
What does that mean?
I work for NXT footwear department that create future footwear product coming out for the future.
All right. Now, back in 2017, that time frame, did you live in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay, what did you do for employment back during that time frame?
I worked at LA Fitness.
And is that the LA Fitness in Woodland Hills?
Correct.
What did you do there?
I was a personal trainer.
Okay. And I think a personal trainer might be self-explanatory, but what specifically did you do as a personal trainer?
Train people to get better physically and get them in shape if they wanted to.
So do you have individual clients then at LA Fitness?
Yeah, it was a one-on-one training type.
And how long have you been working there? As of, let's go with January of 2017, how long have you been working there?
4 years.
Now, the defendant sitting in court over here in the long dark hair, the black suit next to the gentleman in the gray suit, do you recognize her?
Yes.
How do you recognize her?
She was one of my clients.
And how do you know her? What name do you know her by?
Monica
Do you know her last name?
Sementilli.
Was she what? You said she was one of your clients. When did she join the gym, if you know?
I think it was 2 years after I started.
Okay, so do you know what year that would be?
17, 16, maybe 14, 15, 2015 or 14.
Okay, somewhere in that time frame, she joined the gym. And did you immediately become her trainer?
Yes, I believe so.
And what did that involve as far as, did you have individual training sessions with her in LA Fitness?
Yeah, so once you become a member of LA Fitness, they put you through a process and give you option to sign up with a personal trainer. And then I became her trainer. It was a one-on-one. And I think the contract was for a year. It was 6 months or a year.
How long then would you meet with her, like during a week? Was it once a week, twice a week?
I think it was once a week.
Okay, so once a week she would come to the gym, you would train her. And during that time, did you start building a friendship or a relationship with her?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during that time frame then, we're just talking about that first contract. Did you believe it was, did you say 6 months or a year?
Yes.
Do you know which it was?
It might have been 6 months.
Okay. That first 6 months that you're training her, did you start talking to her about personal things?
Yes.
Did she talk to you at all about her family or her home life?
Yes.
And what did she tell you?
She would talk about her kids, and then she told me she was unhappy in her marriage.
Do you recall when that happened? And again, we're in this first 6 month time frame. Are we still in 2015, or have we moved on to the next year?
Maybe moved on.
Okay,
I
so
can't
around
recall.
sometime in 2016?
Yes.
Do you know, if you recall, how that conversation came up?
I think she said she was unhappy and that she thought he was cheating on her.
Did she say anything else that you remember?
Not that I recall.
Did that conversation then continue? I'm unhappy in my marriage. She told you that. Did she ever talk about it again during that first 6 months?
Maybe again.
Okay.
I can't recall.
You think maybe, but you don't recall?
Yeah.
Okay. Was your impression then that, based on her words, she wasn't in a happy marriage?
Yes.
It's overruled, so based on this witness's subsequent conduct.
Now, you said she talked about her kids, too. What did she tell you about her kids?
She just told me about her 2 daughters. both in high school.
Okay, did she seem like she did things with her daughters and was a good mom to you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the marriage, did you give her any advice on her marriage when she told you that she was in an unhappy marriage?
I asked her, when she told me she was unhappy, I said, why don't you just get a divorce?
And what did she say to you?
Why throw away 20 years?
Did you ask her anything further about that?
No.
Did you ever talk to her again about getting a divorce or leaving her husband?
No.
Now, during this first 6 months, did she ever show any interest in you romantically?
Yes.
How so? Can you explain how that occurred?
I think it was a lot of flirting, and she asked me out for drinks one time.
And did you take that asking out of drinks to be a proposition to have more of an intimate relationship?
Yes.
Did you go out?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. That calls for the conclusion is speculative.
Again, the way to show this witness's substance conduct is overruled.
When she asked you out for drinks, was this the time frame when you were actually, at that time, training her in the gym?
Yes.
And the conversation out for drinks, were you actually, like, physically doing a training session at that time, if you remember?
I can't remember if it was training her or not.
Okay, so that first 6 months, did you have any interaction with the defendant other than just training her in the gym?
No.
So, in other words, did you ever go sit off to the side and have coffee together and talk about life, or was it strictly just training sessions?
Strictly training.
So during that time, she asked you out for drinks?
Yeah.
And did you go?
No.
Why didn't you go?
I wasn't interested.
Did you tell her you weren't interested?
I told her no.
Okay, did you expand on that or say any reason why?
No.
At that time, did you have a girlfriend or were you in any form of a relationship?
I was in a relationship.
So after that 6 months, you said no to going out to drinks. Did the training sessions continue then after that 6 months?
They did.
And what happened?
Yes, they did.
What happened?
She had said she wanted to continue training, but at her house.
Was this something normal that you did, go to people's houses to train them?
No.
Did that make you feel uncomfortable at all?
Objection, that's legal.
Overruled.
No.
Did you feel like that had anything to do with wanting to spend time with you since she'd already asked you out for drinks?
Yes.
In listening to Matthew's testimony, I felt it was very stoic. It was emotionless. It was boring, quite frankly. It came across that he would rather be anywhere else in the world other than on that witness stand. I felt them calling him was absolutely purposeless. So he's going to tell you that she wanted to have an affair with him and said that she was unhappy at home. So what? Married people have affairs all the time. Not all of those married people kill their spouses. And that's just a fact. Following Matthew's emotionless testimony, prosecutors called Monica's former friend Elise to the stand. Elise testified that Monica told them that she needed her via a text message she sent 1 month following Fabio's murder. The 7th day of Monica's trial continued on February 4th of 2020. On this day, prosecutors called Fabio's son, Luigi Sementilli, to the stand.
Now, you said prior to the murder you had a close relationship with your sisters, Isabella and Gessica. In terms of a close relationship, did you communicate with them separate from your communications, let's say, with your father?
Yeah.
And would that be through their personal cell phones?
Yep, social media, by phone, yeah.
In January of 2016, do you recall what you were doing around that time?
January of 2016?
Sorry, 2017.
Yeah, January 2017, I was in grad school at Brock University. I just finished the first semester and was ready to begin the second semester. And that's when I received the phone call the night of the murder.
Okay. And what were you getting a particular degree at that point in time?
Yes, I was working on a master's degree in philosophy.
Okay. So the night of January 23rd of 2017, you said you got a call. Who did you get a call from initially?
My sister Gessica.
Okay. And what was her demeanor when she called?
She was freaking out, said someone killed Dad, and saying, you know, just sort of being hysterical. And then I think what I said, just not taking in information, was let me talk to Dad. And then I think I hung up, she hung up the phone line, that call ended. But then we were again on another phone call, and then the phone was passed around to some other people.
All right. So when the phone call ended, did you call somebody? Did you call your father's line at that point?
I believe I did, because I hung up and then tried my dad's line, no answer, and then I believe I had gotten a call back from Jessica's number, I think was the order of events. But then that second round of conversations begun.
And then did you speak to Jessica briefly before you said the phone got passed around?
I think so, for just a moment, and I think she said, here, gave it to Deborah.
Deborah. Do you know somebody by the name of Deborah?
So Deborah Obad was a neighbor of theirs, and sort of like one of the only family friends from the area, I suppose.
Had you met her when you would come to visit once a year to
Yes.
Los Angeles to visit your dad?
Yes.
Okay. And so you knew who she was?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
And did you also speak to the defendant during that same phone call?
Yes.
And did the defendant relay information to you from the defendant?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. Did Deborah relay information to you from the defendant, your stepmom?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did she say to you from the defendant?
Objection, calls for speculation, no foundation.
I'll hear it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when Deborah came on the phone with me, she said to me, Monica's freaking out about money, worried that they're not going to have money, and that there's money coming to me, and so that I would help them with the money that I was to receive, because they need the help.
So one of the first things that was said to you was that Monica was freaking out about money, and that money was coming to you.
And that I was to get money, therefore, the presumption was that I was going to give them money to help.
When you say the presumption, you're saying Deborah and Monica said that you would give Monica money?
Yeah, Deborah was like, don't worry, he'll give it to you, basically very presumptuously. And
She's talking to Monica as she's on the phone with you?
And then relaying it to me and saying, you know, you got to help them out. They're going to need help with money, this, that, and the other.
Okay. And then did you, in fact, the phone get passed to the defendant so you could speak with your stepmother?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did she say to you?
As soon as the phone was passed to Monica and we spoke for the first time after the murder, the first words out of her mouth were regarding life insurance money.
What did she say specifically, if you recall?
Yeah, she says, there's money coming to you. Your dad took care of you. There's money coming to you. You'll be able to buy a house. You'll be able to buy a car. That was the topic of conversation.
Through Luigi's testimony, he dropped a bombshell in the middle of the courtroom. Luigi stated that he blamed Monica for the dissolution of his parents' marriage.
And Mr. Sementilli, when you met with the detectives that first time, or you were interviewed the first time, I should say, after Monica was arrested. You made clear to them, did you not, that you believed that Monica had ruined your family before your dad was killed, separate from her being arrested or anything to do with the allegations, correct?
Sure. Whenever someone goes through that situation as a young person, they're always going to hold a little bit of resentment towards the figures in their life that broke up what they were promised, right? A happy, full home life. There's a little bit of that rock of resentment between step-parents and stepchildren. Yeah.
And you specifically told the detectives it was because of your dad's affair with Monica, that was the reason that broke up your parents' marriage.
It's hearsay.
Goes the bias, it's overruled.
Did you hear me?
Can you try to repeat the question?
Yeah. You specifically told those detectives, in referring to Monica ruining your family, that it was because Monica and your dad had had an affair which caused the end of your parents' marriage.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Nothing further.
Through Luigi, and for the first time, we heard that the reason that his parents' marriage did not survive is because Fabio and Monica were engaged in an affair. Unlike Matthew Nurse's testimony, I found Luigi's testimony to be extraordinarily impactful. I felt like Luigi was insightful. He was very genuine. He came across sincere. He answered the questions directly as they were asked of him. And he didn't come across defensive, quite frankly, at all, even during cross-examination. Luigi was a phenomenal witness for the prosecution in this case, and that's because he answered to the best of his knowledge, without creating facts, without speculating, and just answered what he knew. The 8th day of trial continued on February 5th of 2025. On this day, the jurors heard about Monica submitting multiple forms out of her desperation to get Fabio's life insurance money. The 9th day of trial continued on February 6th of 2025. On this day, the prosecution called Jake Gibson, a digital forensic investigator for the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, to testify about the digital evidence that he recovered on both Monica and Robert Baker's devices. Jake testified that he found an email where Monica was giving Robert instructions on how to bypass her home's surveillance footage system. Jake also testified that Monica had a pretty interesting search history that would become relevant for this case. She searched, do the police have the right to tap my phone? Why would she be doing that? The 10th day of Monica's trial continued on February 7th of 2025. On this day, Monica's defense attorneys were able to cross-examine Jake as to the digital evidence that he recovered on her devices. The 11th day of Monica's trial continued on February 10th of 2025. On this day, the prosecution called a forensic accountant to testify that Fabio actually didn't have a will, and Monica stood to inherit more than $2 million in marital assets. The 12th day of trial continued on February 11th, 2025. On this day, the prosecution also called gang detectives who testified about some surveillance they conducted on Monica and Robert following Fabio's murder. The reason I said that with inquisition in my tone is because I didn't find their testimony really relevant, useful, or helpful because it didn't matter. But let me explain. The gang detectives testified that they followed Robert Baker and Monica to a bar. While at the bar, they noticed the pair kissing. The pair then went to another bar where they saw Monica kissing the bouncer. The detectives testified that the night ultimately ended with Monica alone in her Ford F-150 and Robert on the bus, trying to get to where he needed to go. Again, I think that the prosecution is delaying this case by putting on evidence of the salaciousness of Monica's affair. She was engaged in an affair which she admitted through her defense attorneys. Why do we need to hear that she was making out with some dude outside of a bar and it was the bouncer and what? The 13th day of trial continued on February 18th of 2025. On this day, the jurors heard from a cybersecurity investigator who testified about all the information gathered from both Robert and Monica's devices. The 14th day of trial continued on February 19th of 2025. On this day, prosecution witnesses testified about the trap they set in place to see if Monica and Robert Baker were still communicating with each other from behind bars. The 15th day of trial on February 20th, 2025 was a little more of the same. Prosecution witnesses testified that Robert and Monica were indeed communicating from behind bars, and the nature of their communication was quite concerning. In a recorded phone call, Monica told Robert Baker that she was concerned that law enforcement would receive and recover the messages that the two exchanged from the encrypted application that they used to communicate following Fabio's murder. Days 16 and 17 continued on February 21st and February 24th, 2025. On these days, the prosecution called witnesses to testify that they were never able to recover the weapon used in Fabio's murder. The 18th day of Monica's trial continued on February 25th of 2025. On this day, jurors saw surveillance video of Monica and Robert meeting up near his apartment and also heard evidence that Monica would refer to herself as Monica Baker because, according to her, her Italian last name was far too long. Day 19 of Monica's trial continued on February 26th of 2025. On this day, the prosecution introduced evidence of Monica's lavish expenditures following her husband's murder. The 20th day of trial continued on February 27th of 2025. On this day, the prosecution introduced evidence that Robert Baker purchased 2 prepaid cell phones 6 days after Fabio's murder. But what was more interesting is that one of those cell phones was found in Monica's purse following her arrest in this case. The 21st day of trial continued on February 28th of 2025. On this day, Fabio and Monica's daughter, Gessica, took the stand. Gessica told the jurors that on one morning in 2016, she remembered going into her mother's bedroom to put on makeup and seeing Robert Baker in her mom's bed.
I'm going to ask you some questions then about Rob Baker. Now, there was a time before the murder, back in 2016, where you saw Rob in your house, right?
Yes.
How many times before the murder had you seen Rob in your house?
That was the only time before that I saw him in the house.
Okay. And can you tell us well, first of all, was there a time when you found him in your mom's bedroom in her bed?
Yes.
What time frame are we talking about, if you remember?
I don't remember the time frame, but I think I was already graduated from high school. I was going to class or I was going to work. So that around that time.
2016?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2016 then, one day, can you explain what you remember happening, how you found him?
Yes, I went to my mother's bathroom to take mascara or something because I like to do my mascara in her bathroom. And I didn't notice anything, but when I came out, I noticed Rob in her bed.
And what time was that?
It was in the morning, so I don't know, 10, 11 a.m., maybe earlier.
Did you tell the police about 7 a.m.?
Maybe. Sure, if I was working, then that's 7 a.m.
Okay. Not trying to trick you, I just want to...
No, I just don't remember.
Okay. 7 a.m. you went into your mom's bedroom, right?
Yes.
And I say that because at the time, did your dad sleep in the other room?
Yes.
All right. So you went into your mom's bedroom, and what did you see?
I went to the bathroom first, and then when I left the bathroom, I saw Rob in the bed.
And you recognized him?
Yes.
How did you know what he looked like?
Because I went to LA Fitness, and I knew that he was a racquetball coach, whatever, there.
Had you seen your mom playing racquetball with him before that?
Sure, yes, amongst other people, though, too.
Who else?
Elise, Faye, but there was a whole tournament. There was a whole league there, so a bunch of people.
All right. So you recognized him as being in from the gym. And what did you do?
I didn't say anything. I just ran out of the room and I called my mom.
Okay, and what did you say to your mom?
I asked, why is Rob in the bed?
And what did she tell you?
She told me that he doesn't drink often. They had a party last night. Her friend Sheila, I think, they all came over, and he doesn't drink often. He got drunk, and so he slept it off.
Well, did she tell you that he and Sheila spent the night?
Yes.
Did you see Sheila there?
No.
Did you see Sheila there the night before?
I wasn't there the night before.
Okay. So you didn't see her. You don't know?
Correct.
All right. So this is what your mom told you?
Yes.
But that morning you didn't see Sheila. You just saw Rob?
Yes.
All right. And how did you know Sheila? From the gym?
Yes.
All right. What happened then?
My mom told me, and I had no other reason to believe otherwise, so I believed her.
All right. Did you say anything to Rob?
No.
Did he say anything to you?
No.
And did you just leave the room then?
Yes.
Did you ever see him leave?
No, I was leaving the house, so I didn't see him.
So when you left, was he, to your knowledge, alone in the house?
Yes.
Okay. And your mom was dropping off your sister at school?
Yes.
So when you left then, did she tell you not to tell your dad?
No.
According to Gessica, when she asked her mother about this, her mom merely said that Robert had too much to drink and just needed a place to rest. The 22nd day of trial continued on March 3rd of 2025. On this day, jurors heard from Detective Mitzi Roberts. She explained her work in discovering that Christopher Austin was Robert Baker's accomplice?
Initially, we started with looking at things that sort of stood out to us as out of the ordinary. We looked at many individuals, starting out with where did Robert Baker go on the day right after the murder, on the days right after the murder, who did he contact, who did he call, who did he have conversations with, and through that investigation, there were several names that came up.
Okay.
One of them was Alfred Birdsong.
That's the individual that we heard about from Roger Brown when you were here last week.
Correct.
Who lives in Las Vegas.
Yes. There was another individual named LaShane Holmes, who I knew that Robert Baker had met while they were incarcerated together, that lived in the Orange County area. He contacted him on the day that the crime was committed and also stayed with him on several occasions after the murder. There was, and then interesting that what we found was a Facebook message that was sent on, I believe it was January 25th, from Robert Baker's Facebook account to an individual named Christopher Austin. And when I started looking into that, it was very rare that they communicated via the Facebook Messenger app.
When you say they, who are you referring to?
Robert Baker and Christopher Austin. There was only a couple messages, and I believe the last one before the one on the 25th of January in 2017, they hadn't communicated via that Facebook Messenger since I think the end of 2015. Okay. So it was concerning. So we started to look into Christopher Austin as a suspect at that time.
The 23rd day of trial continued. On March 4th, 2025, after over 3 full weeks of trial, more than 21 days of trial, the prosecution called their star witness, Christopher Austin, to the stand.
Did you ever express to them that you wanted to back out?
I didn't say it directly. I gave hints. It's like, I'm working a lot. I don't know. I can't. And they started, Baker started initiating, try to figure out when you can get some time off. I was like, I don't know. I'm working a lot.
Now, by the way, during all these phone calls, was the defendant ever on any of the phone calls?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, and did you ever speak directly with the defendant at any time, directly with her about killing her husband?
No.
So was your communication with and through Baker?
Yes.
Was he relaying what she was telling him for the majority of the time?
Yes.
So on these calls then, specifically, did you talk about these three-way calls? Did you guys talk again about ways to kill the defendant's husband?
Yes. Just, I remember saying where he's going to be. And
what
again,
does that mean?
He's telling me this stuff at this point.
Who's he?
Baker.
Is telling you where he's going to be. This is though around the October timeframe, right?
Maybe November now.
And what did he tell you in regard to where he's going to be? What does that mean?
Said he travels a lot. So it might not go down. I was like, cool.
What's the last part?
He said it might not go down.
Did Baker tell you that the defendant had sent him her husband's itineraries when he traveled out of town?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Did Baker say what?
Did Baker ever tell you that the defendant had sent him, Baker, her husband's itineraries when he went out of town?
I don't recall him saying that, but he knew
Objection.
when he was
That's
leaving. And he was scheduled.
Sorry, there's no
So-
question pending, sir.
I'm sorry.
Did Baker tell you when the defendant's husband was out of town?
Yes.
Was there ever a plan or a conversation between you, Baker, or you and Birdsong, or you and all three of you together, you, Baker, and Birdsong, to possibly kill the defendant's husband when he was out of town? Was that ever a conversation?
I don't remember.
Mr. Austin, when we broke, we were discussing the conversations that you had prior to coming to LA. Now, in December of 2016, did you formulate the plan then when you were going to, around that time frame, when you would be able to come down to LA to commit this murder?
Yes, ma'am.
If you recall, was that on a three-way phone call with Birdsong and Baker when you actually worked out days?
I think it was just with Baker.
You said before break that they were asking you about days and you had to work or something of that nature. Can you explain what you were talking about?
When they were asking me?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? Baker would say, when can you get time off? And I told him I just started a new job, so I won't be able to get any time off for a little while. PTO is not available. It's just making up a lot of things actually for him, like to just like, I can't do it.
Why were you saying that?
Because I didn't want to come down and do it. And because he had already told me so much information, I was afraid to like go to anybody.
What do you mean you were afraid to go to anybody?
I mean, I was at that point in time in my life, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I shut a lot of people out.
So does that mean you didn't talk to anybody about what you were planning and involved in and about to do?
Yes.
Were you dating your now wife then? Chloe, were you
Yes.
with her?
Yes.
You weren't married to her then?
No.
Did you tell her anything about this plan to go to LA and kill the defendant's husband?
No, ma'am.
At some point then, you determined what days you're going to fly down. How did you guys determine the date? Was there any particular reason why you flew down when you did?
Baker told me, I'm gonna get you a ticket. I'm gonna send the card. Let them know for these dates. It should be fine. It's just a job. And there's plenty of money.
What do you mean there's plenty of money? Is that something Baker told you?
Yes.
Did he elaborate on that?
He said, if you do this, you can make some money. I'll give you a couple dollars. And I was like, a couple dollars? He said, yeah, I can give you a couple dollars. And he said, I can get you anywhere between 30 and 50 grand. And there's plenty more where that came from.
Did he tell you where that money would come from?
He said it was going to come from, the defendant.
And specifically, where from the defendant?
Well, he would always say she's loaded. So once she gets this insurance money, we're going to be good. We're going to move out of the country somewhere and I'll send for you.
When he told you, and this is Baker,
Yes.
when he told you we're going to move out of the country somewhere, did he tell you who he was talking about?
I knew who he was talking about,
Who was that?
the defendant.
He told you that they, when it was over, were going to move out of the country. And what did he tell you as far as what you were going to do after this occurred?
No, he didn't tell me anything. He just said, I'm going to send for you once we get settled.
To you, what did I'm going to send for you mean?
He was going to fly me out
Fly you out where?
wherever they had decided to land.
And this is after the murder would have occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
So the plan was to leave the country?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Baker ultimately then buy your ticket to come down to Los Angeles for this?
Yes.
And does it sound right around January 12th, that time frame he bought your ticket?
Yes.
You came down on Alaska Airlines?
Yes.
During that time frame, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, when you're talking about your ticket, did you have a lot of conversations that you recall with Baker about the planning and the logistics of what was going to happen?
Yeah. He said that, I remember him saying, like, when you come out here, it's got to be quick because he's supposed to go out of town soon.
Who was he? He was supposed to go out of town. Who was Baker talking about?
The victim. He was talking about the victim.
Was this around the time frame of when you bought your ticket on, or he bought your ticket on January 12th of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
So he told you have to come soon, that he, the victim's going to be going out of town soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he tell you when the victim was going to be going out of town?
No, ma'am.
Did he tell you where the victim was going to be going out of town?
No, ma'am.
Did Baker tell you how he knew the victim was going to be going out of town?
And he told me that the defendant lets him know everything.
John, I'm going to object unless to use the word defendant.
Tell her.
She lets him know everything?
She lets him know. She's like, she's going to let me know. She let me know everything.
Okay. Did he tell you anything else about that you recall during that conversation?
No.
Okay. So on January 22nd, 2017, did you fly then on a ticket that Baker purchased for you to Los Angeles on Alaska Airlines?
Yes, ma'am.
When you flew here, what was the purpose of coming to LA on this particular date?
To kill the victim.
When you landed, well, let me ask you this first. You're in a relationship with Chloe at this point?
I am.
At the time that you flew to LA on January 22nd, 2017, were you in a relationship with her?
Yes.
What did you tell her was the reason why you were going to Los Angeles?
To help with some business. He wasn't feeling well. That was what he told me to tell her.
You told her that who wasn't feeling well?
Baker wasn't feeling well, and then I had to pick up some of his business errands for a little bit, for just a couple of days.
Had Chloe ever met Robert Baker?
No.
Up until your arrest, did you ever tell Chloe what had happened or what you had done on January 23rd, 2017, when you participated in the killing of Fabio Sementilli?
No.
Did you ever tell anyone what you had done?
No.
Why not?
couldn't tell anybody.
Christopher said some pretty interesting things during his testimony. He said that although he never communicated with Monica directly, Robert Baker told him that Monica wanted Fabio dead, merely because she was unhappy in her marriage. Christopher also told the jurors that he and Robert attempted to take Fabio's life the day before they actually went through with it. The 24th day of trial continued on March 5th of 2025. Christopher Austin remained on the stand, and he was cross-examined by Monica Sementilli's defense attorneys.
Good morning, Mr. Austin.
Good morning.
Mr. Austin, you discussed yesterday, as I recall, not wanting to really tell the truth until you had an attorney. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. That's what was advised to me as soon as I met with my attorney.
And when did you first meet with your attorney?
In October, sometime in November.
Were you in Vancouver or were you in Los Angeles?
I was in Los Angeles.
Well, you had an attorney in Vancouver too, didn't you?
Who advised me that extradition was probably better than waiting to come to court.
All right, but that attorney was appointed for you up there?
Yes, sir.
Did you talk to the attorney at all as to whether or not you should talk to the authorities up in Vancouver and answer their questions?
The attorney in Vancouver advised that I waive extradition and say, go ahead and say you're ready to come. And that's what happened.
Well, I understand that, but you were interviewed several times up in Vancouver.
Several.
Right? You talked to Miss Stagel and the two officers behind me. They interviewed you up in Vancouver, right?
On the 2nd of October, yes.
Yes. And you had conversations with the Perkins individual in the cell for about 5 or 6 hours. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't tell the truth to any of them, right? About Ms. Sementilli being involved in anything.
I didn't tell them everything, no.
Well, the one thing you left out was Ms. Sementilli, correct?
Yes.
That's the only thing you left out, right?
I left out a lot of details to them.
Well, but you told them up there that you had killed Mr. Sementilli, the motherfucker, as you put it, you called him, right?
That's what I told them.
But you had stabbed him, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You confessed to the murder, correct?
I confessed to being a part of it.
And you confessed to being part of it with Mr. Baker and Mr. Birdsong.
Yes.
So the only thing you left out was including Miss Sementilli. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Why did you just leave her out and tell them about Baker and Birdsong and yourself?
It wasn't until the detective took my DNA that at that time, in my mind, they knew everything. So why even play with them?
Why even play with them?
That was my thought.
What do you mean by play with them?
There's no point in playing games with somebody who flew up from Los Angeles to pull me over and have me arrested on my way to work.
So you knew, whether it was DNA or anything else, that when they came all the way up to Vancouver to interview you, you knew they had you, right?
I knew they knew something.
Oh, what did you think they knew?
I don't know.
Well, they told you what they knew, right?
Pretty much.
And you told them, more important, what you did.
Yes.
So whatever they told you was enough to get you to say that you had stabbed and killed, along with Mr. Baker, Fabio Sementilli, an individual you never knew, you didn't even know his name, right?
Not at the time, no.
You didn't confess to them that you killed Fabio Sementilli when you were up in Vancouver?
I thought I told you yes earlier.
Told me what earlier?
Yes.
You did, right?
Yes, sir.
So you knew they had you on first-degree murder charges.
No.
What'd you think?
I thought they wanted to ask me some questions.
And why did you think they wanted to ask you some questions?
Well, I would imagine.
I want to know what you were thinking at the time, or imagining. Go on.
In listening to Christopher's testimony, I honestly don't know what to make of it. Do I believe that the prosecution put on enough evidence to prove that Monica was somehow involved in Fabio's murder? I do. But I don't know if Christopher came across as the most credible of witnesses. When pressed on cross-examination, he folded like a deck of cards. I don't know if that's exactly what the prosecution wanted. But I don't know. After putting the poor jurors through more than 3 full weeks of trial, I think they've already made their point. The 25th day of trial continued on March 6th of 2025. On this day, Christopher Austin remained on the stand for a 3rd day in a row, but this seemingly wrapped up his testimony. We just completed day 25 of trial. And as I said at the beginning, they're going upwards of day 30. I'm going to die on this hill. This case is going for far, far too long. I feel like the prosecution could have done more to condense this case and ensure that the jurors remained completely interested and invested the entire time the trial continued. I'm going to stop the video right here because I don't want it to get too long, despite the fact that I know a lot of you will say that you don't mind super long videos. Unlike the prosecutor in this case, I want to make sure you guys are interested because this is about Fabio. This is about Fabio and justice for Fabio. Unfortunately, because of the length of this trial, you'll see me upload a part 3 video for Monica Sementilli next week. Hopefully at that point we'll have a conclusion. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, y'all take care.